So first, let's talk about Julio Jones. And I want to know, like, what is Julio Jones' end goal, right? He wants out. That's clear. Now what, right? He says he doesn't want to go to Dallas. We'll see if it kind of plays out that way. I think Dallas might be able to send back Gallup, and I know Gallup, he's in like the last year of his contract. Doesn't make a lot of sense for Atlanta. I think it does in the sense of it creates, even if he's on the last year of his contract, they still kind of get to free up that cap space moving forward if they elect not to bring back Gallup. And but Gallup he's a 1,000-yard receiver. So it's like, okay, get rid of Julio, but okay, we can get Gallup, obviously get some draft compensation. And I think that's a win-win for both sides. Although I know he said he doesn't want to go to Dallas Cowboys, but I think that would be a good fit. Was the Shannon Sharpe thing planned? I think my initial reaction, and I think like a lot of other people, everybody, we're all men and everything like that. Anytime you have somebody on speakerphone, the first thing you do is say, I'm on speakerphone. Like no matter what, if you're in a car with other people, if you have somebody on speakerphone, like you let them know. It's common courtesy, right? Like that's the first thing I do. Anytime I call one of the homies and I got them on, hey, I'm on speakerphone. Hey, I got my wife right here, whatever it is. So you just make sure they don't say anything that they don't want to say, all right? Or that you don't want them, you don't want other people hearing. So it was interesting to see that there wasn't that. Like there wasn't that part of the conversation. It just jumped straight into, hey, thank you for calling me back. I knew you was going to call me right back. And then it was just straight into like, well, who do you want to play for? Are you going to play for Atlanta? And he's like, nah, man, I'm out of there. Just the way the whole conversation was kind of played out. And then at the very end, it was like, oh, by the way, you're on live TV. And I feel like, and obviously Julio continued to, say like, yeah, I ain't going to Dallas or whatever. But I mean, by that point, the damage was done. So was that planned? Do you think that Julio was in on the whole thing? Do you think that Julio's agent was right next to him? Like, listen, we're going to force our way out of Atlanta. We're going to put on TV. We don't want to be there. Maybe that'll make it to where they get rid of us quicker, or not quicker, because you got to wait till the first anyways. But, I don't know. I just thought that it looked a little shady. Because I just feel like you can't, and he got on there like, I'm your favorite uncle. I'm like, man, he ain't nobody's favorite uncle after this. Not if Julio didn't know about it, but sounds like Julio might be okay with it. But now where does he go? What is Atlanta able to get for him? I think everybody's looking at this situation and it's like Julio Jones, like it's got to be just like this crazy draft capital. I have seen that they want a first for him. I have seen a report that somebody was willing to give a first for him. And maybe a team will, Green Bay Packers, I don't know. But when I look at it, it's like 32-year-old receiver coming off of an injury kind of riddled season where he missed 7 games. I don't think he has missed as many games as a lot of people say on social media. Like I hear people on social media just say, oh, he's always hurt. And it's like, dude, this dude has missed 8 games over the last 4 years, and 7 of them were last year. You know what I'm saying, sir? Or over the last 3 years, and seven of those games were last season. So it's not like this. Like Julio has just been this guy who is always hurt and can't play or whatever. He's been extremely productive. I would go on to say, and this is without me really looking into it, kind of talking out my ass a little bit, but has anybody been more productive over the last 4 years or last 3 years? Yeah, 4 years, whatever, than Julio Jones? Probably not. And that's with him missing 7 games last year. Dude's been going crazy. So Julio Jones, he's still top tier, but he is 32 years old, or about to be 32 years old. He is coming off a season where he missed 7 games. He is coming from a team that is forcing him out. What is his actual, value to another team? Is it a first-round pick? I would lean to say no, especially depending on who you are. I mean, if I'm just really that desperate, obviously he's going to help any team that he goes to. So from that standpoint, it makes sense. But, you got to factor in the money. Any team that trades for him, they're going to have to take on, $15 million. I'm going to list some destinations where I feel like he fit. I'm not going to even factor in what their cap space is, because I really feel like the whole cap thing, like you can make that work, however you want to make that work, right? Like if you want Julio to fit in, you're going to figure out a way to make sure Julio fits, no matter what your cap situation is at this current moment. All right. So I think I saw like something about the Saints looking into Julio Jones. Weren't the Saints like $100 million like over the cap to start this offseason. So if the Saints are interested and they can figure out a different way to get Julio Jones, like, come on, man, like the cap stuff, it's whatever. So I'm not even factoring in that part. Just what spots will he go to and what will the compensation be? All right. I think off top, we've seen AJ Brown really vouching for him, right? And I think that that's something that can, definitely help. AJ Brown, when you look at him and kind of what he's been and who he has played with, I think that's definitely a good spot for him. You lost Corey Davis, who, I don't think Corey Davis played as well consistently as he would like. He dealt with injuries. He dealt with, just the quarterback situation in general, having, a guy like, Marcus Mariota and, kind of going through his struggles, being up and down a little bit, going from that to Tannehill, but also, one of the most run-heavy offenses in the league. So maybe it was just the lack of passes going around, and that's what led to Corey Davis not being extremely productive. But obviously, AJ Brown, he's eating in his role, and he probably would like somebody opposite him that'll really work out. And I think Julio, that'll make Tennessee dangerous. That'll make Tennessee dangerous. So if I'm Julio, I think that's probably the first place that I would go to. Or not that he has a choice, but if I'm Atlanta, that's probably one of the first places because, one, it's an AFC team. So, ideally, I would like to get Julio out of the NFC. All right, trade him to an AFC team. I think he fits right in with what, the Titans do. Even though they don't throw the ball a ton, they do take deep shots, and I think him and A.J. Brown would definitely work off each other extremely well. Another team that everybody's kind of throwing out there, the Colts. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's another team that would, ideally fit. I'm trying to look at situations where it's like they can maximize what he is, right? They can maximize what Julio is. And I think when you look at a team like the Colts, having Carson Wentz, who kind of needs that guy, right? Like, can Carson Wentz have that bailout guy, a guy that kind of help smooth over his transition from playing poor? I think people talk about Carson Wentz like he's some bum and like he's been this bum his whole career. He was a bum last year. Like, he was. I mean, he got benched for a guy who I thought was going to be a running back coming out, Jalen Hurts. But, he got benched in that situation. He was playing very bummy. But before that, Carson Wentz is good. I think his biggest issue before was the fact that he just couldn't stay healthy. I think more so than anything, that was more of his issue. But, from an athletic standpoint, from a mobile ability, the ability to throw the ball downfield, he does those things well. Can he get back to a space where maybe his clock isn't as sped up? Can he get back to a spot where, he's not rushing everything, his mechanics kind of get cleaned up, and be a part of an organization that is going to do whatever to really help him do well? And I think the Colts are that team that provide really good structure. Here's a part of the Eagles with Ward, and we're going to get to the Eagles receivers. I'm going to talk about Devontae Smith coming up, but Ward, that was a quarterback. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Rager, who was kind of up and down and got hurt. So it's like they didn't really help him. Like, they didn't help him. And then I'm hearing about the head coach and Carson Wentz not talking to each other for like 10 weeks straight. I don't even know how that's possible when Doug Peterson was an offensive guy and you don't talk to your quarterback. I don't know. Terrible situation, really weird, but he gets a fresh start. And what better, to have a fresh start, to have like weapons and structure and great culture, right? That the Colts have built. Talking about a really good running game with Taylor. I think he's just getting started. Michael Pittman Jr., if he can stay healthy, that's going to help big time. T.Y. Hilton, you got that veteran savvy receiver. And if you add Julio Jones to that mix, like, bro, what are we talking about? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're going to really compete. And again, that's another team where Atlanta has the chance to be able to get Julio out of the NFC and get him to an AFC team. And, I think those teams, they probably will end up kind of fighting for Julio because, I'd assume the Titans, they don't want to let the Colts get Julio. They're in the same division, right? So I think, when you kind of look at landing spots, those two fit very well. Another team, the Raiders, you look at the Raiders situation, and kind of losing a guy like Nelson Aguilar. I mean, that was their leading receiver last year. Like Nelson was their guy, and obviously I'm pretty sure they want to see Henry Ruggs take that next step. Brian Edwards got to stay healthy. He was a guy who just didn't get a lot of targets for whatever the reason. I was really high on Brian Edwards coming out, but you throw Julio in the mix, and you have a guy like Ruggs who can play off of him, and Brian Edwards who can play off of them and learn from him, and somebody to really help, Derek Carr. I think that's something that can really work. And we know, John Gruden likes his veterans. I don't think he'll be shy about giving whatever it takes to get a guy like Julio Jones over, because of the kind of situation that the Raiders have been in, needing to really, they got to make a move now. I mean, it's been like 3 years. They ain't sniffed the playoffs, right? And, John Gruden was paid $100 million. Paid $100 million. So he got to figure out a way to really make this work. And so if I'm the Raiders, I really go all in. I got to go all in this year, because, I mean, you can't go 4 years missing the playoffs. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not really liking the Raiders receiver core, right now. Now you add Julio Jones to the mix. Now you got something. Because now I like the way that the other guys can play off of Julio. But can you count on Ruggs to be your wide receiver one? Can you count on Brian Edwards to, really take that next step? I mean, that's tough. That's tough. So I like the Raiders. And then obviously the 49ers, and that'll probably be the last team that I talk about. We'll see. I think, you like what they have with Brandon Ayuk. Obviously, you like what they have with Deebo Samuel. You want to see, Deebo stay healthy. You want to see Ayuk stay healthy. I mean, he missed 4 games last year. Obviously, you like what those guys can be, but I think you add Julio, and it just kind of solidifies the receiver core. It makes it where it's not this young, developing receiver core, and I'm not sure exactly what we have. It's like, boom, you got your bona fide wide receiver one, and you have a guy like, you got 2 receivers that can play off of Julio in Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. So, I really like the thought of, Julio going to the 49ers. What the compensation would be, I don't know. As far as cap space goes, you if you want Julio, you'll make it work regardless. You'll make it work. So again, with any of these teams, I'm not speaking on what these teams' cap space situations are. I'm not worried about that, because I really feel like if you want a player to work, like you'll figure out how to fit him in to your offense. So his contract isn't too crazy. I mean, we're talking about $15 million, that you'd have to take on right now. $11 million over the next couple of years. If I had to guess, I would say Julio Jones would probably want to restructure that and get more money, and teams will have to figure that part out. But he, as of right now, he's not like a ton of money. I got a question in the comments saying, do we know what Atlanta wants/needs, picks or players? And I would guess both. They are a team that, if you're trying to get Julio Jones off of your books for contract situational type things, you want to get Julio off, because of money. Then I think that you would lean more towards draft picks and more of a rebuilding thing. But I brought up Gallup and the Cowboys. Again, Julio said he don't want to go to the Cowboys, but I brought up Gallup because he actually is cheaper, much cheaper right now. And he still gives you a situation where, I have, with Kyle Pitts, with Ridley and Gallup, at least for this year, we're good. And then we'll figure it out moving forward. The Cowboys to me makes a lot of sense. But again, that was a squad that he said he does not want to go to. The Raiders do have Darren Waller. And I think that's looking at the receiving core is like, damn, maybe they are kind of like the 49ers, right? Where you have, and the 49ers rookie receivers have definitely been more productive, but, you have your tight end who's really your number one target, who's going to eat up, a bunch of opportunities. And then you have 2 receivers who are younger and have ability, but you got to see what you're going to get from them. 49ers, I'm pretty sure, definitely feel more comfortable than the Raiders do. Raiders, Ruggs and Edwards weren't very productive, not like you would like to see. 49ers have had really good production out of both Ayuk and Deebo. They just got to stay healthy. I think if Ayuk was healthy last year, he'd be a 1,000-yard receiver.